Hey, I'm Kelly. If you love cars as much as I do, you're in the right place. From drifting car days to uncovering the world's most iconic rides. Gear up and subscribe to Drive with Kelly for nonstop car fun. You thought buying that sports car was going to be freedom on wheels, weekend track days, canyon carving adventures, living the dream. Think again. Some of these machines looked like automotive perfection sitting on that dealer lot and turned into the most expensive nightmares you could imagine. Today, we're counting down 9 sports cars that only the absolute dumbest people keep buying. Trust me, by the time we're done, you'll know exactly which ones to run from. Let's get into it. Number 9. Alfa Romeo Giulia Quadrifoglio, 2017 to 2021. The Italian beauty that's heavy on problems. Alfa Romeo marketed the Giulia Quadrifoglio as the BMW M3 killer. Twin-turbo Ferrari-derived V6, gorgeous Italian styling, and a price point that undercut the Germans. And technically, it delivered on performance. It was also an electrical disaster. The 2.9-liter V6 sounds incredible, but the software controlling it was garbage. Cars went into limp mode randomly on highways. Check engine lights for phantom issues that dealers couldn't diagnose. Remote start systems that stopped working after 3 months. Inside, the story was worse. Seat height adjustments that failed from day one. Blower motors that died in the first year. Front parking sensors that turned themselves back on even after being disabled. The infotainment system was so buggy that owners just used Apple CarPlay exclusively. The adaptive cruise control had phantom braking episodes so frequent that using it was dangerous. Brake calipers that wore unevenly despite proper maintenance. The alarm system was so sensitive it went off if someone walked past the car. Alfa Romeo is owned by Stellantis, which should tell you everything about the build quality and customer service. A lot of Quadrifoglio owners thought they were getting an exotic Italian sports sedan they could daily drive, but instead they got a crash course in why depreciation exists. Buyer tip: if you're looking at one of these used, assume the electrical system is compromised and price accordingly. If the seller's asking market value, they're delusional. Number 8. Chevrolet Corvette C7Z6, 2015 to 2017. The American supercar that overheated itself to death. Chevrolet calls this America's sports car. It was designed to compete with European exotics at half the price, and it absolutely delivered on straight-line speed. But the C7Z6 from this era had a fatal flaw. The supercharged LT4 V8 overheated on track within minutes. The cooling system was under-engineered, which meant you either drove it gently on back roads or you spent $15,000 on aftermarket cooling upgrades just to use the car as intended. GM knew about this issue and did nothing. The automatic transmission in these went into protect mode as soon as coolant temps climbed, killing power and leaving you crawling around a track at 20 miles per hour while McLarens blew past. Manual cars avoided this, but had clutch issues that cost $4,000 to replace every 30,000 miles. The magnetic ride control suspension failed early and often, with replacement costs at $3,000 per corner. Interior rattles and squeaks plagued these cars from new, making them sound like $30,000 cars inside, despite the $80,000 price tag. Carbon ceramic brakes that cost $9,000 to replace wore out in 15,000 miles of spirited driving. The paint was so thin that rock chips became gouges, and clear bra installation was mandatory unless you wanted a hood that looked like it survived a sandstorm. Resale value plummeted because buyers knew about the problems. Smart tip: unless you have deep pockets for modifications, there are better options everywhere you look. Number 7. Lotus Evora 400, 2015 to 2021. The lightweight legend that's a heavyweight problem. Lotus has always positioned themselves as the driver's car company. The Evora 400 was their attempt to offer supercar performance with British precision. And they succeeded in the performance part. It was also a reliability catastrophe. The build quality on these things was so poor that owners reported panels misaligning just from normal driving vibration. The Toyota-sourced V6 was bulletproof, but everything Lotus bolted to it rattled, squeaked, and fell apart. Interior trim pieces that came loose after 5,000 miles. climate control systems that failed in both extreme heat and cold. The air conditioning was underpowered, and the heater was a jet engine that roasted you. The manual transmission was notchy and difficult, with synchros that wore out prematurely. The clutch was heavy enough to give you a leg workout in traffic. Electrical issues plagued these cars, with battery drain problems and mysterious warning lights that dealers couldn't fix. Parts availability was a nightmare because Lotus barely sold any of these. When something broke, you were hunting forums and calling UK suppliers directly, then paying international shipping for parts that should be readily available. The paint was thin and delicate, chipping at the slightest contact. Stone chips turned into rust spots because quality control was non-existent. Service costs were astronomical because few mechanics wanted to work on them. These Evoras originally sold for $90,000 or more, and today you can find them for $50,000. The depreciation alone should tell you everything. If you're looking at one of these today, ask yourself why it's still available. The answer isn't good. Number 6. Audi R8 2017 to 2020. The German supercar that forgot it was German. This is the car that proved Audi could build a mid-engine exotic to rival Ferrari and Lamborghini. Shared platform with the Lamborghini Huracan, naturally aspirated V10, and Audi reliability. Except the reliability part was a lie. The build quality during this generation was inconsistent at best. Some units were solid, others were disasters, and there was no way to tell which one you were getting until you'd already signed the paperwork. The carbon fiber side blades cracked and separated from the body, purely cosmetic, but costing $3,500 per side to replace. The magnetic suspension system leaked and failed, requiring $4,000 repairs. The dual-clutch transmission had mechatronic unit failures that cost $8,500 to fix. The carbon ceramic brakes, standard on V10 Plus models, needed replacement at $12,000 per axle. Audi used a lot of Lamborghini parts, which meant when something broke, you paid Lamborghini prices even though you bought an Audi. The electronic parking brake system failed regularly, leaving cars stuck with the brake engaged. The engine was shared with Lamborghini and generally reliable, but the electronics Audi wrapped around it were not. Sensor failures, software glitches, and infotainment freezes were common. The virtual cockpit display would go black randomly, leaving you without any gauge information while driving. If you see one of these on the market today, it's probably because the current owner hasn't been able to unload it. There's a reason for that. Before we get to the 5 worst sports cars ever built, do me a favor, smash that like button. If you're learning something here, drop a comment and tell me, did you or someone you know get burned by one of these? I want to hear the story. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss our next video, and click that notification bell so YouTube actually shows it to you. Trust me, the next 5 are absolute disasters. Let's keep rolling. Number 5, McLaren 570 S 2016 to 2020. The British supercar nobody wanted. McLaren is Woking's attempt at building accessible supercars, which is supposed to mean advanced engineering at a price below Ferrari. The 570S was their entry-level model aimed at buyers who wanted track performance without the 6-figure price tag. What they got was a parts nightmare. The twin-turbo V8 engine is a gem when it works, but the electronics controlling it were not up to the task. Hydraulic suspension failures that refused to lift the nose for speed bumps, leaving $200,000 sports cars scraping on driveways. Gearbox issues that caused jerky shifts and occasional refusals to engage gear. The carbon fiber tub was amazing for rigidity, but terrible for repairability. Minor parking lot bumps that would be $500 fixes on other cars required $15,000 of carbon fiber repairs. Insurance companies totaled these cars for minor accidents because repair costs exceeded the depreciated value. The air conditioning system couldn't keep up in summer heat. The infotainment was outdated compared to competitors. The door mechanisms failed, leaving owners unable to open doors from inside or outside, requiring $3,000 repairs per door. McLaren dealerships were few and far between, which meant if you didn't live in a major city, you were shipping your car hundreds of miles for service. The factory warranty was laughable, denying claims for issues that were clearly manufacturing defects. Parts took months to arrive from the UK. Simple maintenance like oil changes cost $800 at the dealer. Tire replacement ran $2,000 for the set, and they wore out in 8,000 miles of normal driving. Resale values dropped 40% in 2 years because buyers knew what they were getting into. If you find one of these today, check how motivated the seller is to move it, because they are. Number 4. Ferrari California T 2014 to 2017. The Ferrari that shouldn't have been. Ferrari used to mean something in the exotic car world. The California T was their entry-level GT car, and back in the day, you'd see these parked at country clubs with owners who'd been loyal to the prancing horse for decades. But Ferrari cheapened the formula, and the quality went straight into the tank. The California T had electrical systems that failed constantly, batteries that drained overnight despite being brand new, convertible top mechanisms that jammed halfway up, requiring $6,000 repairs. The F1-style dual-clutch transmission slipped and clunked, needing replacement at $18,000. The turbocharged V8 was Ferrari's first turbo in decades, and it showed. Turbo failures, wastegate rattles, and check engine lights for emission system faults plagued these cars. Oil leaks from various seals meant frequent top-ups between the 5,000-mile service intervals that cost $2,500 each. The interior tried to look luxurious with leather and carbon fiber, but within a few years, everything started cracking, peeling, and falling apart. The navigation system was 3 generations behind competitors. The ride quality was harsh for a GT car, defeating the purpose. A lot of California T buyers felt betrayed. They'd paid Ferrari money for a car that drove more like a problematic Maserati. The maintenance costs alone ran $5,000 per year, and that's if nothing actually broke. When things did break, parts took weeks to arrive from Italy, and labor rates at Ferrari dealers started at $250 per hour. Extended warranties were expensive but necessary, often costing $10,000 per year just for peace of mind. If you see one of these today, it's because the owner realized Ferrari ownership isn't what they thought it would be. Number 3. Dodge Viper ACR 2016 to 2017. The track weapon that became a money pit. This is the most extreme Viper ever built, and frankly, it might be the most frustrating sports car purchase you could make, period. Designed specifically for track dominance, the ACR broke lap records at multiple circuits. It also broke owners' bank accounts and patience. The naturally aspirated V10 makes 645 horsepower, but numbers don't tell the whole story. This engine runs so hot that it cooks components around it. Heat soak issues destroyed ignition coils, oxygen sensors, and wiring harnesses. Regular maintenance included replacing these heat-damaged parts every 10,000 miles at $800 a pop. The extreme aero package created massive downforce, but also massive repair bills. The carbon fiber wing was fragile and expensive to replace at $8,000. Side sills scraped on everything, requiring $3,000 replacements after track days. The massive front splitter broke if you looked at it wrong, costing $4,500 to fix. The Brembo carbon ceramic brakes were track-focused, but wore out in 5,000 miles of hard use. Replacement cost ran $15,000 per axle. Track tires lasted 1 weekend, at $2,500 per set. The suspension bushings wore out from the extreme forces, needing replacement every season at $2,000. Dodge discontinued the Viper entirely in 2017, which meant parts support dried up immediately. When something broke, you were hunting Viper specialty shops and paying premium prices for NOS parts or custom fabrications. The interior was Spartan and uncomfortable, with seats that felt like park benches and a cabin that cooked you alive in summer. The manual transmission was heavy and notchy, with a clutch that required leg press strength in traffic. These ACRs originally sold for $120,000 or more, and today they're worth maybe $100,000 if you find the right buyer. But maintenance costs over 5 years could easily exceed $50,000 if you actually used it as intended. Buying a Viper ACR in 2026 isn't bad judgment, it's financial self-sabotage. Number 2. Nissan GT R 2017 to 2022. The Japanese legend that lost its way. The GTR has a cult following among enthusiasts who swear these are the best performance bargains ever made. Those people are lying to themselves. Nissan built these on aging platforms using technology from 2009, and by the time they reached the late 2010s, they were embarrassingly outdated. The build quality was inconsistent at best. The dual-clutch transmission that made these cars famous started grenading around 60,000 miles, especially if you ever used launch control. Replacement costs ran $20,000 for the transmission alone, and Nissan voided warranties if they detected repeated launch control use. The interior was cheap and plasticky, feeling like a $35,000 Nissan Maxima inside, despite the $110,000 price tag. Buttons broke, trim pieces rattled, and the seats were uncomfortable for anything longer than a grocery run. The navigation system was impossibly outdated, looking like it came from 2005. The VR3.8 twin-turbo V6 was powerful but problematic. Fuel system issues caused rough running and poor performance. Turbocharger failures happened between 40,000 and 70,000 miles, costing $8,000 to replace both units. Engine oil consumption became severe after 50,000 miles. Brake fade was a real issue despite massive rotors and calipers. Track driving required upgraded brake fluid and pads immediately, adding $1,500 to costs. Tires wore out in 12,000 miles and cost $1,800 to replace. The all-wheel drive system had transfer case issues that caused grinding noises and required $6,000 repairs. Wheel bearings wore out prematurely from the car's weight and power, costing $800 per corner to replace. Resale values cratered because everyone knew about the transmission problems. Private buyers avoided them, and dealers didn't want them on lots. Extended warranties were mandatory but expensive, often running $5,000 per year. The people who love these things will tell you they're misunderstood. The people who actually own them will tell you a very different story. Smart move. Unless you're already in the GTR cult, there are better options everywhere you look. Number 1. Tesla Roadster, 2008 to 2012. The electric pioneer that became a disaster. The number 1 dumbest sports car purchase you could possibly make. The Tesla Roadster. This was supposed to prove electric cars could be exciting, sexy, and fun. Lotus-based chassis, instant torque, and Elon Musk's vision for the future. It proved that first-gen electric sports cars were unfinished beta tests. If you own one of these Roadsters today, you know the pain. Battery packs that degraded to 60% capacity after 100,000 miles with no replacement options. The original battery modules are obsolete, and Tesla stopped supporting them years ago. If your battery dies, you have a $109,000 paperweight. The Lotus Elise chassis it was based on had all the British build quality problems. Panel gaps you could fit your fingers through, water leaks that soaked the interior, electrical connections that corroded from moisture intrusion, causing random failures. The electric motor was reliable, but the cooling system that kept it from overheating was not. Power electronics failures left cars dead, with error messages that even Tesla techs couldn't diagnose. Charging systems that stopped working, requiring $8,000 replacements for charger modules no longer in production. The interior was terrible even when new. Cheap materials, terrible ergonomics, and a cabin so small that anyone over 6 feet couldn't fit comfortably. The convertible top leaked and deteriorated, with no replacement parts available. The touchscreen display failed and couldn't be replaced because Tesla discontinued that hardware generation. Navigation and infotainment systems became useless when 3G networks shut down, and there's no upgrade path. These Roadsters originally sold for $109,000 to $140,000, depending on options. Today, you can find them for $60,000, and they're still overpriced. The lack of parts support makes them impossible to maintain. Finding a shop willing to work on one is nearly impossible. Buying a first-gen Tesla Roadster in 2026 isn't taking a risk. It's choosing to own a collectible that can't be driven, maintained, or repaired. It's the worst decision on this list. Now, tell me what you think that sports cars which prove to be expensive doesn't mean reliable and cheap doesn't mean smart in the comments. And if this reveal impressed you, get a sneak peek at the muscle cars so rare that no one ever saw on popped on the upper left of your screen.